Hmm.
Hello, Swami.
Hello, I am giving the talk. Would you like to attend? I am giving the talk. Hmm.
Nobody has joined.
Good morning, Alexander.
Good morning, Swamiji.
Good morning, Ujjwal. How are you?
Good, Swamiji.
Very good. Okay,
Good
let us
morning,
start.
Swamiji.
Good morning, Noel. Okay, good morning, everybody. Let us start. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. The subject of my talk today is wisdom of a saint. Yesterday was a full moon day, and that was the day when one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna was born. His name was Swami Adbhutananda. Unfortunately, this statement is not really 100% correct because we do not know exactly what is the birthday of this Swamiji. The reason is that he was born in a remote village and he was completely illiterate, came from a poor family, and his parents died when he was just 5 years old. By the time he was 5 years old, he lost both of the parents. So there was no chance of knowing his birth date correctly. But with his permission, his birthday is celebrated on the Maghi Purnima, as it is called. This is the month of Indian month Magha. So it falls during this time, that means this February, March. So this day is celebrated as his birthday. So we have to celebrate something, remembering him and recapitulating his teachings. And also many admirers are there. They love Swami Adbhutananda very much. So in that way, this date is earmarked for Swami Adbhutananda. We had one Swami, if I remember, I am told this story, that he took it as a mission to find out the birth dates of all direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And he made all effort to find out the birth date and correct it, recorrect it. In that way, the present time, all the birthdays that we celebrate was his, what is called, because of his effort that we know the birthdays. Of course, some of the birthdays we knew, but for those whom actually did not know, he made a lot of effort to find out the exact birth date. And then in that way, they are confirmed birthdays of other direct disciples. But unfortunately, his birthday, Swami Adbhutananda's birthday, could not be dug out. It was not possible because he was born far away from Kolkata in a place, the region is known as Chhapra. Chhapra is on the western part of the state of Bihar, just almost on the border of UP, near Varanasi, you can say. Varanasi is the dividing line between Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. And just after that, that if you travel from Varanasi towards east, actually the district of Chhapra comes. And this Chhapra district has got some, what is called, many illustrious people, but as such, it is a very backward district. Even today, compared to other districts, in fact, the state of Bihar is considered to be a little bit backward from the point of view economy, actually. And they are improving, but Chhapra is considered backward amongst the backward districts also. So in that way, when he was born, it was a very remote place, and also place of not so many well-known people or educated people. And the people from that area mostly worked in other places. That means they used to go to Kolkata for search of job or doing some menial work, or in other places like prosperous places like Delhi or Mumbai or such other places, or even Patna, which is the capital of the state of Bihar. So he was born, it is said that his parents came from a not exactly farmer's family, but who raised what is called sheep. So, that was their profession. That means they used to graze sheep. And when his parents died, that means his father died, he was given, at the time of his death, he gave the charge of taking care of him to one of his brothers, what is called cousin. His name was Phulchand. And Phulchand was comparatively well-to-do at that time, but unfortunately, he also lost money and he had to leave his birthplace for some job. So he came to Kolkata, and with him he brought Latu Maharaj. Latu, the name was given, the name Latu came in this way. His parents gave the name Rakturam. Rakturam means one who is really let Rama, the incarnation God Rama, take care of him. In that way, the name Rakturam, the meaning of the name Rakturam is there. Then because it was shortened to Latu, Raktu Latu. And he was brought to Kolkata, and Phulchand got a job in the office of Ramchandra Datta, who was a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. He introduced this young boy, very young, probably he was in early teenage. So he introduced to Ramchandra Datta and asked him to take care of him. And Ramchandra Datta was impressed by the young child, and he said that, well, he will be working in my family as a servant. Servant means helping in the household chores. So in that way, he was adopted in the family of Ramchandra Datta. Ramchandra Datta was a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. Great in a sense, that means he was, I often mention this, that he was during the lifetime of Sri Ramakrishna, he declared publicly, and he used to give talks publicly, that Sri Ramakrishna was an incarnation of God. You can imagine how bold he was. That means in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, and he himself was a scientist actually, and he declared and used to preach Sri Ramakrishna as an incarnation of God. He used to go to Sri Ramakrishna time to time, and his wife also was a great devotee. And in that way, there was a connection, good connection between Ramchandra Datta and Sri Ramakrishna. And when Ramchandra returned to home, he used to talk mostly about what he had learned from Sri Ramakrishna. He used to talk about Sri Ramakrishna, about all spiritual things he used to talk. And Latu, while doing his chores in the household, he was a very sincere help in the household. There's no doubt about it. And he earned full faith of the family there. In that way, he was very well accommodated and well respected, if you call it. Sometimes Ramchandra Datta's friends used to suspect him to be dishonest, but he himself, that means Latu himself, was very bold to assert that he was not really unfaithful in any way. And Ramchandra Datta actually, the family actually accepted him in that way. So when Latu started listening about Sri Ramakrishna, he became interested in meeting him, going to seeing him. So naturally, a young boy, child, so they took him to Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna, and he stayed with him for some time. And Sri Ramakrishna was also impressed by this completely literate village boy. That means that type of visitors were really rare probably to Sri Ramakrishna. And his mother tongue was Hindi. Hindi means village Hindi. And that was very uncommon in Kolkata. So probably Sri Ramakrishna himself was from a village, so he knew Bengali, and also might have many illiterate or uneducated village devotees also. But this was the first time that he had the company or acquaintance with a long distance young boy from Chhapra, that means that village of that remote district. So he was impressed, and Latu was also very much impressed by seeing Sri Ramakrishna, as if he felt some, what is called, inexpressible respect and love for Sri Ramakrishna, and in that way Sri Ramakrishna also felt some instant affection towards him. And time went on. From time to time, the family, this Datta family, used to send flowers or fruits or some articles of necessary to Sri Ramakrishna through Latu. And in that way, the connections grew little deeper. And slowly, slowly we see that Latu became so attracted to Sri Ramakrishna that one day he told the family, that means Ramchandra Datta and his wife, that, well, instead of staying or serving them, he would rather serve Sri Ramakrishna. So that urge came to him deeply. And Ramchandra Datta and his wife understood because they were quite familiar with his nature, they also gave thoughts to that. And at that time, what had happened that Sri Ramakrishna used to be taken care of by Hridaya Mukherjee, who was Sri Ramakrishna's nephew and was also employed in the temple complex. He had some work in the temple services. But it so happened that he fell in the, what is called, he did something which was not really liked by the temple authorities. So he was expelled from the temple, and Sri Ramakrishna was in the great necessity of somebody to take care of him, because his health was very fragile, and time to time, or most of the time, he used to be in spiritual mode in samadhi, and when at that time he did not have any consciousness about outside things. So somebody required to take care of him on such conditions. So the time was auspicious in a sense. That means Sri Ramakrishna also needed somebody to take care of him. And at the same time, Latu was also eager to be with Sri Ramakrishna. And Ramchandra Datta, being a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, did not object to that, rather encouraged him to take care of Sri Ramakrishna. And in that way, he started living with Sri Ramakrishna exclusively. Sri Ramakrishna, finding him to be a good candidate or potentiality of his spirituality, great potentiality of his spirituality, he understood, and then he started teaching him. That means gave mantra and showed him how to do spiritual practices, and in that way he started doing spiritual practices. At the same time, he used to take care of Sri Ramakrishna, and by that time, Holy Mother Sarada Devi was also living in temple complex, and because Latu was very simple, and Holy Mother was from a village, so he usually did not meet the Sri Ramakrishna's male devotees as such. So Latu was simple, not only simple, but he was very comfortable with Holy Mother, just like mother. He looked her, and also Holy Mother thought her as her son. In that way, he was sort of go between these devotees and Holy Mother Sarada Devi. And he used to help in the household chores also, especially in the preparation of chapati. As you know, chapati requires a little bit laborious work of making the dough. So he used to do that chore for Holy Mother Sarada Devi, along with other chores. Then we see that during the time of Sri Ramakrishna, all along he lived with him, when Sri Ramakrishna was in Dakshineshwar and helped him, took care of him, along with others. That means Rakhal was also there, we see. And at the same time, he used to do intense spiritual practice. His meditation and all those things were so deep. One day, there is a story that he was doing meditation on the bank of the Ganges. And at that time, Ganges is near the ocean, so time to time, tide is to come. And the tide came and he was completely oblivious of his body. And this water started rising. And actually, it covered a certain, what is called portion of his body. The water level went up to that portion, but he was completely oblivious of this water. And that was the intensity or depth of his meditation. Later on, we see that Sri Ramakrishna moved to Kolkata for his treatment. He was suffering from, towards the end of his life, he suffered from cancer, and for good treatment, he was brought to Kolkata by the devotees. First in Kolkata, then to Kasipur, which is also just near Kolkata at that time. So Latu remained with Sri Ramakrishna and took care of him all along and throughout this illness. He did not go anywhere or did not spend much time in doing other chores, but entirely devoted himself to the service of Sri Ramakrishna. And after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, we see that he went with Holy Mother Sarada Devi because she became a widow. And it is quite natural that to get rid of this sorrowful atmosphere after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, she went for a pilgrimage to Vrindavan, and along the path, so that she visited some other places of pilgrimage and settled for some time in Vrindavan. And Latu actually went with her also and stayed with her. Then he came back and started living in Kolkata. And at that time, actually, he did not have any fixed place to stay because he has already left the house of Ramchandra Datta, lived with Sri Ramakrishna, and then came back and with spiritual practices he was doing. And he took the monastic vows along with the other disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, took the monastic vows and started living in Baranagar. And time to time, he started living outside also. That means the discipline of the mott and all those things was too much for him because he is not accustomed to any discipline as such. So he used to live sometimes with some devotee's place. Sri Ramakrishna had a devotee who had a printing press. So he was also quite friendly with him. So sometimes he used to live there. And in that way, he used to spend his time doing spiritual practice according to his timing. And also he had what is called, he used to get food because the friends actually supplied that. He had the opportunity of visiting Puri also, Jagannath Puri. And it is said that there he prayed to Jagannath Puri that please give me 2 boons. So one boon is that, see that I don't have to go here and there too much. That means I don't need to travel too much. And also give me good power of digestion. So it was quite interesting that he asked for good digestion. But the bottom line is that without good digestion, it is very difficult to stay in different places because there is no certainty about the food. You can get a food if you are in a house or in a residence. You can order food according to your own appetite or according to your liking or according to which is suitable for your system. So that is possible. But he was what is called like a roving mendicant. So he had to beg food, and begging food means that food you do not know what type of food will be there. So he exclusively, that means intelligently, prayed to Lord Jagannath to give him a good power of digestion. Later on, we see that when Swami Vivekananda returned from the West, he inquired about him. That means the relationship with Swami Vivekananda and Swami Adbhutananda, that means he has taken monastic vows so to become Swami Adbhutananda, were very deep in a sense, though you can see that he was born in a completely uneducated family, uncultured family, a remote place. But Swami Vivekananda in that way was very, what is called aristocratic family, educated, highly educated. So, but the relationship was very deep and very affectionate. It is said that when Swami Vivekananda returned from the West, while coming actually he asked, how is Latu? That means Swami Adbhutananda. He inquired about him. Latu was there, present, he was present, that means, though he was not present physically in front of Sri Ramakrishna, but in front of Swami Vivekananda, but he was nearby. So when he learned that he had Swami Vivekananda inquired, he came to Swami Vivekananda and met him. And Swami Vivekananda said, why you have not come and met me? So he said that now you have world conqueror and you are such a people are really pouring your what is called their respect and love, and I am an insignificant person, whether you will recognize me, know me, or remember me. So with that fear, actually, I did not come. Then actually he said, no, you are just like me. Just he made him sit by his side, and not only that, they ate lunch together. So that assured him. And to Latu Maharaj, Swami Vivekananda was Noren. Noren means his pre-monastic name, but because of his Hindi tongue, he used to call him Loren in that way. That is, it is similar to, in sound to Noren, because his village Hindi was like that. So he used to address him by his first name. That means it was not that he had to respect him, and that the relationship actually continued. Once Swami Vivekananda went to Kashmir with Western devotees, and he took Latu Maharaj with him, and they visited together the places of northern India that we see. Finally, Swami Vivekananda requested him also, when he established this Ramakrishna mission, to become a trustee. That means Latu Maharaj, though unlettered, but he is a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. In that way, Swami Vivekananda requested him to become one of the trustees. But Swami Adbhutananda refused to be a trustee, because he said that I do not have any routine. I do not know where I shall be here and there and all those things. He said that ultimately he refused. And that, of course, they accepted his request. And upon the request of devotees, ultimately he started living at the house of Balaram Bose for quite a few years. So his room was just at the entrance of Balaram Bose's house. It was, the house is very large, and inside there is a courtyard, and all the rooms are along the courtyard. And there is a single entrance at the front. It connects the road. So just on the right side of the entrance, his room was there. And he used to live a very simple life, just a mat and what is called a small cot and a few utensils. Especially he liked tea, so there was an arrangement for tea, a small charcoal burner and a pot for boiling water. So in that way, that was his possessions, if we call it. And most of the time he used to do spiritual practices, but the morning and in the evening, sometimes at that point, he used to meet devotees, those who were curious about him or wanted to know something about Sri Ramakrishna, or sometimes he used to speak about spirituality also, because he had done spirituality intensely, or he continued to do the spiritual practices according to Sri Ramakrishna's instructions. There is one interesting incident that had happened during the Sri Ramakrishna's time, that one day Sri Ramakrishna saw that Latu was sleeping. It looked like that he was sleeping, covering his whole body with a cover in the evening. So Sri Ramakrishna called him and said that, well, this is a time when you need to do spiritual practice. Don't sleep at during this time. It is a time that you should do meditation. And literally, he took the words of Sri Ramakrishna and followed that. So it is said that throughout his life, he actually used to do spiritual practice at night. And during the daytime, probably after lunch or sometime, he used to sleep, used to take rest. But at night, even though he looked that he was sleeping, just poking him, actually, one could see that he was actually doing what is called repeating the holy name or doing some spiritual practices. That habit actually he kept throughout his life, because Ramakrishna has said that don't sleep at night, do spiritual practice. So that is a unique practice that he did throughout his life. And later on, we see that after some time, he moved to Varanasi and stayed there for a long time. And in Varanasi, by that time, there was a center there, Advaita Ashram, and he lived there. And also, he used to live outside also in some places. In Varanasi, it is possible to stay outside because roaming monks and sadhus are always there. So he used to live in some places. And at that time, Swami Turiyananda, Swami Sarananda, all those direct disciples used to visit. And Turiyananda Swami actually lived there also. So in that way, he continued to live there for a long time. And you can see that towards the end of his life, he contracted what is called diabetes. And diabetes, as you know, it is a lifelong disease, it is incurable, and that aggravated. And then he used to have gangrene and all those things in his body. And also his digestion power, that means though he had the blessings of those who have prayed to Jagannath Puri for good digestion, but towards the end of his life, actually, he had some stomach ailments also. Then ultimately, he used to have gangrene on his body because of diabetes, and he had to be operated very frequently. And towards the end, we see that he was brought to Varanasi, and then quietly, actually, he passed on. It is said that Adbhutananda died in the holy city of Varanasi at 12:10 p.m. on Saturday, 24th April, 1920. So in this way, the holy person, Swami Turiyananda, as you know, he is one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna who was very much adept in scriptures. And he actually loved Swami Adbhutananda very much. And when he passed away, he wrote to Josephine McLeod, an American devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. So his death was like this. It is very worth noting. So I am quoting that. He showed, Turiyananda is writing to Josephine McLeod. He showed no signs of pain during his illness, but the wonder of all wonders was that after this death, when his body was placed in a sitting position to conform with some of the funeral rites, we found him looking so beautiful, so serene, so full of peace and bliss. There is a custom that the monks, if they're lucky, they desire to leave the body in a meditative posture. That means in a meditation, they leave the body. And in scriptures also it is said that is the best posture of leaving the body, and then only actually one can have what is called the realization, the soul will get liberated. So everybody aspires to that, we see. I remember one story that we have one Swami, his name was Swami Madhavananda. Yesterday, told a little bit about him. So he, when he was sick, he was later on, that means it's a very not in 1965, I think. So he became ill and he was taken to the hospital, and he was very learned. And not only that, he was a great monk also. That means amongst the second generation of monks, he is one of the most respected monks. For a long time, he was general secretary. Here also in India, in San Francisco also, he was for a few years. And he also became president. When he passed away, he was a president. And towards the end of his life, towards the end, the end came in this way that he was taken to the hospital towards the end of his life, and he was suffering, and ultimately the time for his departure came. And because he was in the hospital, other than the hospital staff, also some young monks and are given the responsibility of taking care of him. That means whatever is necessary, just to by his side and see that he's comfortable at the time of death. In that way, some monks were there. So at one point, actually, he said he was lying on the bed because he was so sick that he could not really do anything by himself. He has to lie on the bed. So at that time of death, actually, he shouted that, well, my body is going away. I am passing out. Please make me sit on my bed. In that way, he actually said, don't you see that I am passing away? So with full consciousness, actually, he said that, and because he was a great venerable Swami, what he has said, they obeyed, and ultimately they made him sit on the bed, and in that posture, actually passed away. So this is what is called a desire that all monks have, that to leave the body in a meditative posture. So naturally, Swami Turiyananda is saying that when his body was placed in a sitting position to conform with some of the funeral rites, we found him looking so beautiful, so serene, so full of peace and bliss. His face beamed with light and an intelligence unspeakable, as if he were taking leave from his friends for the last time with an exhortation of affectionate benediction. So this is a beautiful line that he had penned down about the what is called passing away, Mahasamadhi as it is called. When monks pass away, we say that they are really releasing the body forever. So naturally, this is a beautiful expression that Swami Turiyananda penned out by seeing that departure of his beloved brother disciple, a brother monk. So this is a short life of Swami Adbhutananda, and as I told you, he was not learned, but he used to talk. That means he was reticent to talk. He never gave public speech and as such, but sometimes he used to be poked by devotees or young monks to say something about spirituality, spiritual talks. And also he did not do any what is called worldly talks also. That means he did not have any interest in the politics or business or such other things. So naturally, or even scriptures, because he was not a learner at all. So whatever he had, the knowledge, spiritual knowledge that he had, came out of his own spiritual practice. Of course, he had heard Sri Ramakrishna and Harimada and other disciples of Sri Ramakrishna talking. So in that way, definitely, just like Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he was also almost illiterate in a sense that he could sign his name. And also in his young age, there are evidence that he had really copied some scriptural things in paper. So naturally he knew he was not completely illiterate, but in practical sense he was really illiterate. That means he could not read and write. But there is a story that when Sri Ramakrishna found this disciple, as I was telling, that when he came from Ramchandra Datta's house, he thought that he is very young and there is possibility that he will be able to read scriptures and other things. So he started teach. That means Sri Ramakrishna himself wanted to teach him the elementary studies. That means ABCD or how to read books and all those things. But he failed in a sense. That means he could not utter the letters properly. Pronunciations were so poor that ultimately Sri Ramakrishna gave up the idea of what is called teaching him. So in that way, he was completely illiterate and his accents and all those things never changed. So, so in his own way, we see that he used to speak about spirituality and he had learned many things from being in company of Sri Ramakrishna. And mostly because of his own spiritual practice, the depth of spiritual knowledge was really immense. And that is very useful to us, because though we can claim that we are polished persons, but his main mind was completely unpolished. So what he got is really genuine, in a sense that it was not really what is called corroborated with scriptures, or it came through the what is called through the it passed to the scriptural injunctions or such other things. So in that way, what he gained through spiritual, the knowledge, spiritual knowledge that he had gained by his own experience, that is very genuine and very direct also. So our situation is more or less like that. Though we read scriptures, but we do not have that depth until and unless we realize those things. So the teachings that he has given are really very appealing to us and effective to us also. So I would like to share some of his her teachings. And there is one book. It has come out 2-3 years ago. It is the title of the book is Eternal Words, and it is Spiritual Instructions of Swami Adbhutananda. And this original book was written by Swami Siddhananda, who lived with Swami Adbhutananda as his sevak. Sevak means taking care of him during the old age and when he was sick in Varanasi. So he also was very afraid, because Latu Maharaj, when he used to be asked that please say something about Sri Ramakrishna or say something about spiritually, he used to refuse. He used to say that instead of writing my things or my sayings, you write about Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda. That will be more useful to the people. And what I'm saying, what is called, I'm an unlettered person. So my words is not at all worth writing. So Swami Siddhananda, actually what he did, he used to listen to Swami Adbhutananda when people used to come, or he himself used to ask questions, whatever it may be. So in that way, what he had heard at night, actually he used to pen down them. So in that way, he collected many of his teachings, and later on he published them, or he used to publish that in Bengali magazine called Udbodhan, serially. And later on, it was collected in one book. And it is said that at one point, Swami Adbhutananda actually sensed that this fellow is actually writing my copy, what is called, keeping a diary of my sayings and all those things. But later on, he did not object. That means he did not ask him to, what is called, destroy them. He did not really object to his taking down of what we are saying. So in that way, the book was published later on, after serialization in the magazine Udbodhan, in the form of a book, and it is called Sat Katha. Sat Katha means eternal word. Sat means it is honest also, but at the same time, eternal words. In that way also, it can be translated. So that was translated into English by our Swami Sarvodevananda. Till now, actually, it was not translated. So he translated it, and the first edition came in 2018. Swami Sarvodevananda, as you know, he's in charge of the Vedanta Society of Southern California. So he translated during what is called, when Swami Swahanandaji was alive. So Swami Swahanandaji actually encouraged him to translate, because this book was not available for English-speaking readers. So he did that. And later on, we see it was published, serialized in Prabuddha Bharat magazine, and ultimately it was published in the form of a book. When it is published from a book, actually, he has the beauty of this of his translation is that he categorized. It is very difficult. It was very difficult to categorize. In Bengali book, you do not find that it has been categorized the way it has been categorized in it. That means there are titles: purity and the noble ideal, what he had said. Then probably dependence on God. Then the vision of God. In that way, the topics were really what is called selected, and in that way they are collected in under the different headings. So that is very that is why it has become very easy for us to follow the teachings of Swami Adbhutananda. I would like to go through some of his teachings that he has been translated and has and they are part of this book. I'm reading from the heading, which is Suggestion for Sadhana. Sadhana means spiritual practice. We are all spiritual seekers. We do spiritual practices according to the what is called the tradition that has been given to us by your teachers. So in that connection, everybody, that means in the Ramakrishna order, those who are follow-ups, Ramakrishna Holy Mother, they have certain practices, like Swami Adbhutananda called his practices from Sri Ramakrishna, how to meditate, how to do the repetition of name, what to do, what will be a chosen ideal. All those things are technicalities, if you call it, that one need to follow to be what is called more, to be deep into spiritual practices. Otherwise, it will be very superficial. So I thought it will be good to know what he had to say, because he himself did spiritual practices intensely. That means for that, actually, he did not stay in the, did not do any work for the modern mission also. We see all the Swamis had to do work, either preaching or probably administration, or something else, write, edit magazine, all those work they had to do along with their spiritual practices. But being an illiterate, that was a great advantage for him, that he did not have to do any intellectual work. And also he was not drawn to any physical work like relief work or rehabilitation work, distribution of food, or even doing worship in the temples, because he did not know all those things. So that is why his teachings are really what is called, we see that are very practical and came out of his own experience. So a few teachings I shall go through. So he's saying, by the yoga of practice, evil tendencies are destroyed. Yoga of practice, that means by doing meditation. Meditation is a yoga. Then japam is a yoga. Even worship is a yoga. So by this practice, spiritual practice, evil tendencies are destroyed. So this is a great benefit. That means even if you may not realize God, by doing spiritual practice, actually, evil tendencies means, that means what is called, we have different types of anger, then hatred, and all those are called what is negative qualities. We need to get rid of them. By doing spiritual practice, actually, those tendencies will be smoothed out. Will the bad habits accumulate over so many days, leave you by mere thinking? So when you recognize that, suppose I get angry very often. So naturally, when I discover that it is bothering me, bothering others, how to get rid of this anger. So naturally, I shall try to get rid of this bad quality. So he's saying that will the bad habits accumulated over so many days leave you by mere thinking? So if I think that, well, let the anger go away, it will go away automatically. So actually it doesn't happen in that way. That means if you think, let it go, it doesn't go away, because you have accumulated the bad habit for a long time. You people lack strength of mind. So addressing the person, he's saying that the devotees, that you people lack the strength of mind. Determination is not there in you. That is why you will have to engage in the yoga of practice. It is possible to give up what is called bad qualities. Suppose somebody is smoking. I have seen, I have heard, and I have seen also one person, I remember, he told me how actually he gave up smoking. Smoking means cigarette. That is quite common, tobacco smoking, you know. Nowadays, of course, people, because of what is called media, people have, the smoking has become very uncommon. But still, smoking is a habit, suppose. So if you have determination, then, well, from tomorrow, actually, I shall give up smoking. So that tomorrow actually does not come, that is difficult. Every day, you make what is called the vow that you will not smoke. Then again, next day you smoke, and then again make a vow. So it continues in that way. But I have seen one person who actually gave up smoking. I can tell you the story. He was a businessman. He died, he had a full, what is called, after he became quite old. So he had very good business, cotton business. Cotton business means in western part of India, cotton is grown. and his business was to get the cotton from the farmers, and he was a middleman and he used to supply to the mills or some bigger suppliers. In that way, that was a business, a very lucrative business, but it is seasonal. Sometimes the crops fail, so that yeah, there is no earning. It may happen like that. So he was a what is called, not exactly a chain smoker, but a smoker. But because of his age and his heart problem, the doctors were saying that you should give up smoking. So, but he failed. That means he could not really give up smoking. So he said that story later on. He said that he heard about Sri Ramakrishna and our activities and all those things. So he wanted to visit our temple. So while entering, before entering in the compound, that means in the just entering to the gate, actually, he took his last smoke and smoked the last cigarette and just threw it on the what is called on the ground, and what is called put out the what is called the butt of the cigarette, and then intention making a vow. Now on earth I shall not smoke, and that actually acted. That means he told that after that I did not smoke any cigarette. So the point is that he is saying that you do not have the determination, the strength of mind. If anything can be achieved, that means bad habits, just by making a vow that I shall not do this. If your mind is strong, actually, that is the last thing, last time that, last day that you have, if you have done that bad thing, it will go away. For Swami Vivekananda also, it was like that. He used to say, somebody said that, well, you are taking this medicine, and doctor has said you cannot drink water. You cannot drink water because this medicine will not give good effect, or it will not be effective if you drink water. Oh, he said that, yes, I shall not drink water. So he actually, when he had the desire, because of his determination, he could happily do away without drinking water. So the point is that one need to have determination to get rid of bad habits. So he's saying people lack strength of mind. That is why you will have to engage in the yoga practice. So he's saying that is why spiritual practice will be very helpful to those who do not have the strength of mind, or even those who have strength of mind. That is an additional thing, but it is very helpful. Spiritual practice is very helpful for getting rid of bad habits. That is the point. Constant discrimination will result in the cessation of your evil tendencies. That means you will think, that means this is a bad habit, I need to get rid. So that constant negative thought or thought of banishment of the bad habit will be helpful for the cessation of these evil tendencies. Before starting any work, discernment is essential. That means think of that you are doing this work, whether it is good or bad. If it is bad, just give up. If it is good, then you do. So in that way, you have to apply your what is called power of discrimination, discernment. That is another word of this discrimination. So that is essential. If one fails to engage in analysis, the power of discriminate does not even sprout. That means if you do not analyze, that means what is good and what is bad, what will be the effect of this action that I am doing. If you do not analyze, actually, then it will not be possible to get rid of that problem. The person lacking discernment lives like an animal. That means his habit becomes just like a reflex. That means like animals. That means dogs, cats, cows, buffaloes, like that. That means they do not have power of discrimination. They only go by instinct. It is like this. That means if you have any habit, the habit becomes a part of the reflex. That is the general rule. That means first you do something, and if you repeatedly do that, then it will become a habit. And habit actually will be ingrained as a reflex in your character. It happens like that. The great example is that those who smoke, and smoking becomes a part of their habit, is a part of their character. It becomes very difficult to get rid of that. But it starts with what is called just without discrimination, you do something. The person lacking discernment lives like an animal. Through discrimination alone can one know truth from untruth and recognize the play of Maya. So in spiritual field, actually, you know what will last forever and what will actually go when you die. So in that way, if you apply your discrimination, then you will be able to progression spiritually, you will be able to discover truth. Only when discernment manifests may one gain a release from the clutches of Maya. Maya means illusion, that it is doing temporary good, but in the long run, actually, it is extremely bad. Worst thing it will come. So that is the seeing things in the future, what will happen. It comes from the power of analysis. For one who lacks discernment, Maya grips him in delusion. That is why it is essential to learn the yoga practice. Yoga practice, as I told you, that means it is here actually he is saying on the power of analysis, especially Jnana Yoga, in Jnana Yoga it is said that you have to discriminate what is real and what is unreal. That is a beginning, but you have to apply that from in every area of your what is called action, what is good and what is bad. So what is lasting, what is not lasting. So in that way, actually, that power actually is very helpful. And then actually you can choose what is good and repeat that, and it will be ingrained in your character. In that way, the evil tendency will drop off. Then he is saying, do dhyana and japo. Dhyana means meditation. Dhyana means meditation, and japo means a repetition of name. So he's saying, do dhyana and japo sitting on the banks of the Ganga. That means in those days, bank of the Ganga, there was not much population at that time, so it was quite quiet and a lonely place, and there's a serenity, and also the association of Ganga. It is a very sacred river. Age-old tradition, and all the stories associated with that actually help to make the mind pure. You think Ganga is coming from the head of Lord Shiva. That means it is sprouting from there. Then it is coming down, and in that way it is coming, passing through the country and going to the ocean. So it is a fine place. The mind quickly settles on the Ishto, chosen deity. That is why the sadhus so dearly love the banks of the Ganges. So there are many, many sacred places, not only sacred places, just simple by sitting on the bank of the Ganga. He himself used to sit on the bank of the Ganga in the Kali temple. So in that way, the association of the holy thing helps in the control of the mind. One's body and mind becomes pure by doing dhyana and yapa, meditation and repetition on the banks of the Ganga. God can quickly be realized. Bathing in the Ganga, drinking Ganga water, living on the banks, such things do not occur without His grace. He is saying that this sacred river, we have seen, and it is quite common that people come from long distances in India just to take a bath on the Ganges. Because it is a sacred river. Those who do not have the opportunity of living by the side of the Ganges, actually they make it a point to take a bath in the river Ganges because it is so sacred. So he is saying at that time during his times, water was very pure, Ganges water, so one could drink. And in fact, Sri Ramakrishna and others also used to drink Ganges water. So the water, though it was muddy, what they used to do, they used to have a large pitcher of earthen pitchers. So they used to collect them during the time of full moon and new moon, or Ekadashi, that means in the 11th day of the new moon, full moon, they used to collect water and used to keep in the pitchers, big pitchers. So the mud used to settle down, and from the top actually they used to take water, and that used to be used for what is called cooking and other household, not for washing, but for drinking and such other purposes. But now actually it is impossible because of the what is called, it is so dirty now. Pollution, because of pollution. Bathing in the Ganga, drinking Ganga water, living on the banks, such things do not occur without His grace. That means those who are lucky only, they can really get the advantage of this sacredness of Ganges. For one who receives that benefit, know for certain that he has attained good karma. That's mean even to take a bath in the Ganges, he is saying that he is lucky. That means without the grace of God, one cannot get the opportunity of staying by the side of the river Ganges, meditating on the bank of the river of the Ganges, drinking the water of the Ganges, and all those things do not happen, and it is a sign of good luck that he is emphasizing. One does not perform any sadhana and yet goes on complaining ceaselessly. This is a complaint that is quite common with us also. Morning and evening are the most propitious times for dhyana and yapa. That means meditation and repetition of name. One who has an attraction for a particular divine name, whose mind becomes fixed on a particular image, and who feels tremendous faith without repeat that name and meditate on that form. That means one who feels tremendous faith should repeat that name and meditate on that form. So he himself never actually initiated anybody, but those who have got initiation, they know that they have fixed, chosen idea. That means they are attracted to that form. Behind me, you see the pictures are there. So they are very reputed, what is called role models. One can really they take their name or get involved in their lives and remember them for always. So one who has an attraction for a particular divine name, whose mind becomes fixed on a particular image, and who feels tremendous faith, should repeat that name and meditate on that form. Do such spiritual practices. By doing japa and dhyana, the senses become restrained and lust, anger, and greed are controlled. Will it happen suddenly? One must do sadhana. That means sadhana means practice. So he is saying that self-realization is definitely the goal of spiritual practice, but even the evil tendencies that we have, they will be what is called wiped out by doing spiritual practices. The mind will become calm by the yoga practice. You want to gain everything without doing any sadhana. So he's chiding actually those who actually sought his advice for getting rid of this or progress in the spiritual life without doing sadhana. So all avatars and great souls have shown by their own sadhana that everyone must do sadhana. So great avatars like Sri Ramakrishna, Buddha, they did spiritual practices. Jesus Christ, he did spiritual practices. Then actually he attained to the great experiences they had. If you want to meditate on the form of Sri Durga, one form of Divine Mother, the form that exists in the image, think and meditate on that form with a one-pointed mind. So this is the sadhana as it is called, that means spiritual practice one should do for spiritual progress, that he is saying. And with the spiritual progress, the what is called the bonus is that the evil tendencies will go away. That is another benefit of doing spiritual. Some people actually think, well, I shall get have the realization with carrying this what is called bad tendencies also. That means negative qualities that we have, but it doesn't happen. The progress in spirituality will be felt or will be observed or will be understood in this way when the bad tendencies, we know what bad tendencies we have within ourselves, which are really creating obstruction in the spiritual progress. Slowly, those things will drop away. So that is the sign of spiritual progress. And that spiritual practice, like repetition of name and meditation, actually neutralizes those tendencies. Then actually it takes to spiritual progress, that in mind will start concentrated more by continuing the practice. So this is a very a few, that means I just shared only one or two which is very practical for us because we are all involved in spiritual practice. In that way, there are many other advices of Swami Adbhutananda in this good book, Eternal Words. And as I told you, this is very applicable to us because it is not from just quoting from the scriptures that he has done. He has said these things out of his own experience. And that is really very valuable to us. So let us stop here today. Next Sunday, Swami Isodhananda will be speaking on laughing out loud with Sri Ramakrishna. So that is a nice subject, laughing out loud with Sri Ramakrishna. That is on March 7 at 11 a.m. Om madhuvatarithayate madhuksharanti sindhavaha madhirna santoshadhihi madhunakta mutosasi madhumat parthivagangrajaha madhudaurastuna pita madhumanavanaspatihi madhumagangastu surjaha madhirgavo bhavantunah. Om madhu madhu madhu. Sweet blow the winds and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the earths and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us be the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessings. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us be the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us be the shining sun. Sweet unto us be the all living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. Good job.
Swamiji, just wanted to ask you one question.
Please.
Swamiji, who was Swami Adbhutananda's preferred deity? Do we know that?
Say it again. Preferred deity.
Yeah.
That means chosen ideal. No, we do not know all those things because that is given by the teacher only. That remains what is called secret, if you call it, with them.
Okay.
It is not possible to know, except, we know Sri Ramakrishna might have told that Mother Kali is my chosen ideal. Holy Mother has said my chosen ideal is Jagadhatri. But for others, ordinary people, it is not possible because they do not disclose, and it is a part of the spiritual practice. To have a fruitful spiritual practice, one should not disclose one's chosen ideal and the mantra. That is a part of the what is called instruction that is given by the teacher. So in that way, we do not know what are the chosen ideals of anybody who spiritual practice.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji.
All right.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Any other question, please? All right. Then let us end today's session. Thank you. Have a good day.